What if I told you? A street thug from Jordan built an empire that ruled over 11 million people and made the entire world tremble. They didn't start with tanks or armies. They started with ideology, bloodshed, and fear. Cities fell in days. Ancient temples vanished in smoke. And for a brief, terrifying moment, this is the rise and fall of ISIS. And it's a story the world must never forget. Abu Musab al-Zarqawi was born in Jordan in 1966, raised in poverty and lawlessness. His youth was marked by crime, not ideology. But everything changed in prison. It was there that he discovered Salafi jihadism, an extremist vision of Islam that viewed violent struggle as the only path to purification. In 1989, he left for Afghanistan to join the fight against the Soviet-backed regime. The conflict radicalized him further. After returning to Jordan and being arrested again, his reputation as a dangerous ideologue grew. By the early 2000s, Zarqawi moved to Iraq, and history shifted course. After 9/11, the US invaded Iraq in 2003. While the world focused on Saddam Hussein, Zarqawi was busy establishing a terror network. He pledged allegiance to Osama bin Laden and formed al-Qaeda in Iraq. But Zarqawi wasn't content with just attacking foreign troops. He targeted Shiite Muslims, hoping to ignite a sectarian civil war. From 2004 to 2006, AQI unleashed chaos. Car bombings, executions, mosque attacks. The violence was so extreme, even al-Qaeda leaders were uneasy. In 2006, Zarqawi was killed in a US airstrike, yet his legacy lived on. AQI rebranded itself as the Islamic State of Iraq and quietly waited for its moment. That moment came in 2010, when Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, a soft-spoken scholar-turned-jihadist, took control. He would prove even more dangerous than Zarqawi. Around him, the Arab world was crumbling. The Arab Spring erupted in 2011, toppling governments and sparking civil wars. In Syria, President Bashar al-Assad's violent crackdown on protests turned the country into a battlefield. Baghdadi seized the opportunity. His fighters crossed into Syria, establishing the al-Nusra Front, a militant group that blended into the broader rebel movement. In 2013, Baghdadi stunned the world. He declared that the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria had been born. His merger of ISI with al-Nusra was rejected by al-Qaeda, who saw him as too extreme. But Baghdadi didn't care. He had bigger plans. His forces began seizing territory with terrifying speed. Cities in Syria fell. Then, in June 2014, Iraq's second-largest city, Mosul, collapsed in a matter of days. Iraqi soldiers abandoned their posts. US-made weapons and tanks were captured. Billions were looted from the banks. And then came the chilling announcement. Baghdadi appeared at the pulpit of the Al-Nuri Mosque and declared himself Caliph, ruler of all Muslims. It was no longer just a terror group. It was now the Islamic State, a brutal, self-declared caliphate stretching from Aleppo to Fallujah. ISIS didn't just control land, they governed it. Cities were divided into provinces. A theocratic government was established. Their interpretation of Islamic law was savage. Crimes like apostasy, adultery, or even being suspected of spying could be met with stoning, crucifixion, or beheading. Public executions became weekly events. Religious minorities were hunted. The Yazidis, a Kurdish ethno-religious group, were especially targeted. Men were slaughtered. Women and children were enslaved. ISIS also destroyed ancient temples, monuments, and relics, not as collateral damage, but as a deliberate campaign to erase history. The Temple of Bel in Palmyra, over 2,000 years old, was blown up. The group's goal was to wipe out everything that didn't fit its narrative, including the past. But their power wasn't just on the battlefield. ISIS understood the internet. They turned social media into a weapon. Their propaganda videos shocked the world. High-definition execution films, drone footage of battles, glossy magazines like Dabiq and Rumiyah, all designed to recruit and terrify. Young men and women from over 80 countries traveled to join ISIS. Some left willingly. Others were tricked or coerced. Western women became so-called ISIS brides. Many of them were trapped in a life of abuse and regret. The group inspired attacks around the world, from the coordinated shootings and bombings in Paris, to the truck attack in Nice, to the nightclub shooting in Orlando. ISIS's reach extended far beyond the Middle East. The world was watching, and the world decided to fight back. In 2014, the United States and its allies launched Operation Inherent Resolve, an air campaign designed to weaken ISIS's grip. Kurdish militias like the YPG and the broader Syrian Democratic Forces pushed back. Town by town, the Islamic State began to crumble. Iraq retook cities like Tikrit and Fallujah. In Syria, Kobani became a turning point, a brutal siege that ended in Kurdish victory. Then came Mosul. In 2016, Iraqi forces launched a massive operation to retake the city. It took 9 months. Urban warfare ravaged every block. Thousands died. In desperation, ISIS destroyed the very mosque where their caliphate had been declared, a symbolic death for a crumbling empire. Raqqa, their capital in Syria, followed. The SDF, alongside Arab fighters and international volunteers, pushed into the city. The battle was long and costly, but in the end, Raqqa fell. In 2019, the final blow came. U.S. Special Forces located Baghdadi in northwest Syria. He fled into an underground tunnel. As soldiers closed in, he detonated a suicide vest, killing himself and his own children. The self-proclaimed caliph was gone. The physical caliphate was shattered. But ISIS didn't disappear. It became a shadow, hiding in rural deserts, launching occasional attacks, and inspiring lone wolves. Its Afghan offshoot, ISIS-K, grew increasingly violent. In 2024 and 2025, deadly bombings in Iran and a horrific concert hall attack in Moscow once again reminded the world of their presence. From the prison cell of a Jordanian thug to a multinational army of terror, the story of ISIS is a dark chapter in modern history. It was a war built on ideology, chaos, and brutality. But it was also a story of resistance, of Kurds, Iraqis, Syrians, and coalitions who stood up and fought back. Their caliphate is gone, but their ideas, their followers, and their methods still exist. That's why remembering this story isn't just history, it's a warning. Because in every region scarred by war, wherever fear takes root and governments fall, there's always the possibility that something like ISIS could rise again. The story of ISIS is over for now, but the threat of extremism remains. History doesn't just live in books. It lives in the scars of cities, the silence of survivors, and the lessons we carry forward. If you found this story important, don't let it fade into silence.